Welcome to PV Magazine Live. This is Christian Roseland, America's editor at PV Magazine, and I'm joined by TJ Kanczuzewski, the CEO of Innovateus. TJ, thanks so much for talking with me.
Yeah, thanks for having me join the conversation. It's a great conference here in sunny Las Vegas.
Yeah, definitely. Happy to be here. So, for our for our viewers who don't know that much about Innovateus, can you just sort of give a brief overview of what your company does?
Yeah, our purpose is to build a brilliant tomorrow. We're based in South Bend, Indiana, and we focus a lot on opportunities in the Midwest, but we work all across the United States, do some opportunities overseas as well, and we do everything from supplying solar products to EPC to financing and development, and so we touch a lot of different parts of the solar value stream.
Excellent. And from what I hear, your company's had quite a growth path. Can you give some numbers to your trajectory right now?
Yeah, so in 2016, we're working on about 100 megawatts altogether. That's a combination of some utility, C&I projects, down to the supply side of our business where we're supplying product into the residential and small commercial markets.
Right, and I understand particularly that you've been doing some. You're based in the Midwest in Indiana, and you have a lot of projects in the Midwest. Can you talk a little bit about the Midwest as a solar market in the C&I and utility scale space, and what you see going on there right now?
Right. Well, I'd say that the Midwest is probably one of the least progressive areas of the country, and typically, the progressiveness starts like on the West Coast and the East Coast, and it takes a long time for it to get, to places like Indiana and Michigan. But I'd say there's been a lot of changes, lots happening in the solar industry, and those opportunities are popping up in the Midwest because there's a lot of companies like us at Innovateus that have just been pushing, politicians and business owners and utilities to start doing solar. And been a lot of changes recently, especially with utilities having to transition from coal-fired power plants to other generation sources. So we've really seen a couple different utilities change over. We're doing a 60 megawatt project in Lapeer, Michigan right now, which, we tell people that we're doing that in Michigan, they're like, huh? What? How is that happening? Why is it going on in Michigan? But it is. Mm-hmm. It's happening slowly but surely. Things are coming along.
Yeah, that's definitely a big number for the Midwest. Now, I understand there's also some activity in Ohio with AEP shutting down coal plants. And, we haven't even talked about Indiana where, we talk about the Midwest being maybe a little bit behind the times. But as far as I know, the local utility in Indianapolis has had a feed-in tariff for several years now that's been quite successful. So can you talk a little bit about some of these other?
Yeah. Indianapolis Power and Light, IPO, they're actually owned by AES. And they had a really good program in place. It's kind of closed now, but they're looking at more opportunities. And just within that program alone, I believe that there's over 100 megawatts of solar installed in the greater Indianapolis area. The utility in South Bend, Indiana, where we're headquartered, is called Indiana Michigan Power. They're a wholly owned subsidiary of AEP. And they just recently did 15 megawatts in a pilot project, but they say that over the next 20 years, all forms of new forms of generation that are going to come online is going to come from solar. And they've been decommissioning coal-fired power plants. So that's a great thing to hear just in our neck of the woods. And from a utility that we talked to about 10 years ago, who never thought that solar would be a mix of their generation. So a lot of things happening, even in the Hoosier state of Indiana.
That's great. That's really great to hear. Now, another place that has not been thought of so much in the past as a solar market, but that's definitely up and coming, is the U.S. South. And I understand that you have a number of projects in Georgia right now. Can you talk a little bit about what's going on and sort of the big picture of what's happening in Georgia? Yeah,
a lot of the Georgia utilities have just sort of come on board with solar. I think they probably 2-3 years ago, it was probably 3 years ago now, they understood that solar was going to happen, and I guess I would say that they were progressive in their stance on that, and they said, okay, rather than fight it, let's join into the solar party and try to come up with ways that we can make this work. So essentially, they went out to the marketplace asking for developers, solar groups to come up with opportunities and own projects that they could sell electricity to, like Georgia Power, for instance. So we got involved in a number of projects there. Most recently, we're finishing a 20 megawatt project in Rincon, Georgia, which is just right outside Savannah. And there's going to be more happening in Georgia, but I think the biggest project in Georgia that I heard of was 140 megawatts. So the Georgia market has really come on strong last couple of years, and it's a place, being a Midwestern company, Georgia's a place where it's easy to do business, just very, very nice people, easy to get along with. And so it's a good mix for a Midwestern company like Innovateus. So we're going to continue doing a lot of work in the South and places like Georgia.
Great. Any other big projects coming up that we don't know about yet?
One that I think is really exciting, it's also in the Midwest, is one with Michigan State University. So it's going to be 13 megawatts. It's carports. It's on their student and faculty parking lots. But we're going to be an owner in that system and sell the power to Michigan State. But I think the university market is something that really we're going to see blossom over the next couple of years, because a lot of these universities also own their own power plants, and they're also having to transition. Like Michigan State used to have a coal-fired plant. Notre Dame University, who's just right down the road from our headquarters, they had a coal-fired power plant. And so a lot of these universities who understand how to generate power and own power plants on their own are making the move. So that project is going to be one that's going to be coming online in the not too distant future, and I think it's going to be really exciting in the university realm.
It's funny because 3 or 4 years ago, these markets that we're talking about, Georgia, the Deep South, the Midwest, I think a lot of us said to ourselves, solar will never be built in these places. I mean, this will never happen. And now we're hearing about these projects in the Midwest, these projects in the South. What changed? What happened here?
Well, I think the solar industry in the United States just really built up a lot of momentum. And I think there were a few years, like maybe from 2005 to 2008, where a lot of these utilities and other businesses thought that maybe solar was a fad, or there was a bubble, and it was not going to last very long. But the fact that the markets have really taken off in the eastern United States and places like New Jersey and Massachusetts, and on the West Coast, California, Arizona, I think those opportunities have kind of trickled into the Midwest. And I think the Midwest, a lot of these utilities and businesses and people, they want to be progressive. They see the writing on the wall that things have to change. And you got companies like Innovateus and a lot of other groups that have really been pushing hard. And it's been a long, hard fight, but things are finally coming along.
That's great to hear. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk with me.
Yeah, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
And this is PV Magazine Live. We're here at the Solar Power International Trade Show in Las Vegas.